So Paul is pointing, listen, like even on your own accord, even according to your own hero, he's already righteous before having done anything except for believing.
Welcome back to The Move, where we are vibing with the book 10 minutes at a time.
I hope you guys are having as much fun as we are, because this is a blast. The next 10 minutes, we're looking at Romans chapter 4, verses 9 to 15.
Justin, have you read it?
I read it.
My beloved, have you read it?
Did you read it?
And if you haven't, please go
read it. Seriously. This is just not some line to fill time.
That's right. And after you're done reading,
hit subscribe.
Yeah. And after you subscribed,
hit the like button.
And after you hit the like button,
drop an emoji.
And after the emoji, just leave a comment. All right. Pew, pew, pew.
10 minutes. Let's go.
So we can move rather quickly from verse 9 through like 12, 13, 12 maybe even. Because the point is, again, that the blessing that Paul is referring to that has come through Jesus Christ is not just simply for those who have been circumcised.
Right. Which was the idea at the time.
Yes, because although God is one and he's the only high supreme God, he's our God, Israel's God. And to be Israel, you got to be snipped.
Right.
And Paul is saying, no. He is the God of both the Jew and the Gentile. And that his standing as God and your access to him does not come through snip. It does not come through regulations, works of the law. It does not come by cleansing of the body in this way or that way. It comes by way of one body that has been broken on behalf of everybody. One body for everybody. So that then you can come through it. That is Jesus.
Yes. And to make this point abundantly clear, he again goes after Abraham. And of course, Abraham did works. He was circumcised.
Yes.
And then all the works that come of the law come after that. But he cites a very important passage in Genesis 15 talking about Abraham's belief.
Yes.
Right? He asks this question, when was he righteous?
Yes.
Before or after the circumcision?
That's right.
And the easy answer is not even like it takes a theology degree. You literally look, Genesis 15, he believes, is counted as righteous. Then it's several chapters later, chapter 17, it's then he gets circumcised. Chronologically, the circumcision takes 14 years. 14 after he believes and is counted as righteous. So Paul is pointing, listen, like even on your own accord, even according to your own hero, he's already righteous before having done anything except for believing.
That's right. So that then what we have is a righteousness that comes apart from work. And what's fascinating is that righteousness apart from work is evidenced in the life of Abraham first and foremost. So this comes as a surprise to the Hebrew listener because they have thought that Abraham is the monumental worker in that he was the first one to get circumcised. But then Paul is subverting this.
The Jews looked at Abraham as kind of like the great divide in history, where like for a long time it was one path, and then when Abraham came on the scene and was finally obedient to God, the world split into two categories, us and them, those who obey and those who do not. But what we see is rather than at Abraham the world becoming divided, we see at Abraham the world becomes united simply if you believe.
That's good. And what's fascinating is that when we point out when he was circumcised, chapter 17, let it be clear that in the previous chapter, he has slept with Hagar, Sarah's handmaiden, that he actually picked up in Egypt when he was lying.
But so you're saying that he's clearly not righteous in that moment.
Well, no, not that he's not righteous, although what he did there was a little falling short, right?
Sure.
So, man, not righteous, right? But just pointing out that the sign of circumcision comes after what he did with Hagar on a specific part of his body in order to remind him of the promise. So that the mark on his body is not the reason as to why he will have access.
Is it a reminder?
It's at least a reminder, if not more.
The next time he's tempted
Exactly.
to do it in his own way and not God's way, and to have faith in God, he's like, oh,
Wait, hold on.
hold up.
Let me use this member correctly. All right?
So I wrote down this, and we'll dive into the next couple sections in just a second, but I wanted to get your thought on this. What we learn from Abraham is that you can be counted righteous before you experience righteousness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can be counted. Let's be honest. All of us have been counted righteousness before we've, and if I understand the context you're talking about, before we're actually well behaved.
Yeah.
Right?
The fact that we are falling short and we have not yet reached the standard upon which we are called to does, while that's true, does not negate the also simultaneously present fact that we are righteous before God.
And I'm glad we're here. Because this is where it's important to understand the nature of the promise. The nature of the promise was given in hopes of bringing about a seed. Like the promise is about a seed that is to come, right?
Yep.
And a seed that is to come is a child. This child will do what all children do. He or she will grow. But at no point while a child is growing is the child any less than what the parent says the child is.
So even when the child is acting a fool and pooping their pants,
That's my
and
baby.
slapping their sister,
That's my baby.
kicks the cat,
That's my baby.
runs away from home,
Still my baby.
gets rid of the father's inheritance,
That's my baby.
hanging out with pigs,
That's my baby.
you're never less than what
Than
God has said you are.
What the Father says you are. So that then when we get to verse 13, for the promise to Abraham and his offspring, you see this?
Yeah, it's not
So
just for him.
it's for his offspring. And the promise is not only for his offspring in the sense that through Isaac, right? But the nation of Israel. But then Paul also has this other idea in mind by those who believe by faith are also Abraham's offspring.
Through the righteousness of faith.
Through the righteousness of faith. So that includes you and me now. Because
Yeah.
I'm not Israelite, are you?
Nope.
No, but we're included.
Yeah.
Because we're the offspring of Abraham, because we believe in the same way Abraham believed that God's mercy toward us is the thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so because we believe that, but it's not only to us as his offspring, the promise is about offspring, right? So that he, and look at this, that he would be the heir of the world. For the promise to Abraham and his offspring, that he would be the heir of the world, did not come through the law, but through the righteousness of faith. So that what we have is this promise about offspring, also us, but in particular, one offspring who would be heir of the world. That offspring does not come by way of law keeping, as it were. So what do we have? We have the promise, boom. And then from the promise, if you can see me on the camera, you have two paths that you can go, okay? One path is the path of
Have you guys noticed how big his hands look on that wide angle?
large. So what you have is one path is the path of faith, and that faith requires you to believe what God has done on your behalf. The other path is the path of law, which then it does not exclude faith to some degree, that you believe what God has done, but then you say, I have a part to play in snipping or cutting or washing my body. And then you might fall into the deception of thinking that then this is what counts me as righteous if I, one, believe, and two, do X, Y, Z. And Paul's setting up this dichotomy saying, promise is here, two paths. You can only take one.
Yeah.
And it's the path of faith that then brings the blessing.
Why is that so hard to believe? Why is the human nature almost built so that we try to do the two paths rather than one?
Because we gotta do in order to be.
Yeah.
That's everything. I wanted to be a basketball player. I didn't do enough.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
I wanted to be a millionaire.
Didn't work hard enough.
I still haven't done enough. Right? Right? I want an old girl to look at me in a particular way. Well, maybe that's just I wasn't good looking enough, right? But we have this innately. We know we have to do in order to be. I mean, why do we go through school? You got to do in order to be, right? The graduation isn't the first day of school, is it?
No.
And so we are cultured, taught, tutored to think that we have to do in order to be. This is why we're
So when God finally comes and says, you are,
we're like,
So
come
go
on,
do.
man. I see myself in the mirror, and all these things you say you believe about me is really, really nice, but it's not really true in my life.
No, God, you might think that I'm X, Y, Z, but you don't know what's really going on.
If you can actually be inside of my head, you would know that I am not. If people knew who I really was.
And what we're saying is, God knows
Yeah.
what's going on in your head.
And there's nothing that you
And
can
yet, he still says,
I love you, gave my son for you, I know who you are. And not only that, but I speak blessing and promise over your life. And as I speak this blessing and promise over your life, you don't have to do in order to attain that which I have spoken. You have to believe and walk in the agreement of that which I have spoken. So that, is there ever a time when that baby of yours might stumble and fall, poop the pants, misbehave? Yes. But that baby never stops being anything less than who you say they are and who they are genetically, right?
where we see prodigal, God sees
Son.
son.
So that Abraham caught a vision of this and said, I believe, I believe, I believe. That's why he's the father of all.
Who believe.
All who believe.
And that's the question for each and every one of us. Do we believe?
And do we believe his word or do we believe our bodies?
There you go, guys. Thanks again for the good times. We'll see you in tomorrow's episode. 10 minutes out of 10.
All right. See you then.